And as our custom with Zoom meetings, we like to give people a little bit of grace in terms of when we get started. But it is my great pleasure to welcome you to our annual Veterans Day, I'll call it assembly, but presentation. It's just an excellent time for us to get together to remember and thank our veterans and share a common experience as an organization. And as you know, we typically are going to we will record this and share it out. But just want to thank you for being with us today. Next slide. Everything that we do as an organization revolves around these values, but I've been struck when I think about and talk about the military of how much our visions of what we're supposed to do overlap with one another. There's no question that the U.S. military is a path forward for so many who have had challenges in their life to try and turn themselves around or find direction or purpose. And I see that aligning perfectly with who we are in these values. But today, we're really going to spend our time talking about service to others. And just to get a real understanding for what that means. And we're going to have a special guest that we'll talk to you about in just a minute. But I wanted to go to the next slide. I wanted to just share a couple things about what we do as an organization, but we're going to go to our pledge and national anthem before we do that. So if we could all stand, remain standing while we do the Pledge of Allegiance, and the national anthem will be played by the U.S. Army's National Band. So please. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rockets' red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say, does that star-spangled banner yet wave o'er the land of the free and the home of the brave?
Well, thank you for standing for that. We appreciate it. So the next thing we wanted to share with you is the things that we do as an organization to try and remember, celebrate Veterans Day. Each year, we do select an organization that we're going to support that sponsors veterans or that supports veterans. We organize a drive that will be running through the end of this week in case you want to help out with that. That will help meet their needs. We also, on behalf of the organization, make a financial contribution to them, totaling somewhere around $600. We also invite them to attend our meeting. So I see Kennedy on there for this year's group that we're working with. And then we always love being able to bring one of our own veterans forward to celebrate them and do a video on them to talk about what they've done. So Master Sergeant William Jones is going to be, we're going to be celebrating him today, and he is our new school police officer. So you hear more from him.
Oh,
And then also, we want to make sure we say that every veteran that works for the CSIU is being given the rest of the day off. Now, we do understand that IU being the IU, that that's not always the easiest thing to do. So your promise from me and to work with their supervisor. If you can't do that today, you make sure you find a time to take the afternoon off or a morning off and work with your supervisor to make that happen. But just know that that's with the support of our board, who really believes in this effort that we do. So to our veterans, that's our gift to you for getting a half day. So next slide. As we get into this, I indulge myself, and I hope you can give me a minute of your time to try and share with you why this holiday is so important to me. And I think it's important to have some perspective. So when you look at this picture, that's my mom and dad, who would be right now 104 and 102. This was back in 1943, and it was after my dad was finished his training, and he was getting ready to be shipped off again. My dad signed up to be a paratrooper in World War II, and I didn't really know what that meant, but evidently the toughest of the tough, or the bad blanks, those are the people that signed up to be paratroopers. And I came to find out later, and this is true to my family and me, is my dad did it because he got paid the most, so he could send as much money home as he could to his family. But my point of that is just to think about these two young people who are 21 and 23 years old in this picture, and what they were signing on for. My dad was away for 4 years in the service. He was in the Pacific Theater. He jumped out of an airplane with a radio on his back, what was called the Forward Observer. And I think about the one story that's often told is he got shot in the radio. So he's floating down, being shot at, and got shot in the radio. Now, at that time, there's 8 other Kareljas that were just a twinkle in their eyes right now that weren't around, including this one, who they had when they were 46 and 48 years old. And how, in the turn of a body, that would have been a much different story in my family. So I often kind of reflect on what it was like for them at that time, for my mom to make that sacrifice with 2 kids and having her husband gone for 4 years. For my dad, who he wasn't drafted. He volunteered to go because of his children. He didn't have to go at that time, but he volunteered to go, knowing what he was in for and seeing his friends and know what happened. It puts in perspective things for me to try and understand what hard is, and just grateful that and proud of my dad. Many of you know I have 2 kids, 3 kids. 2 of my sons both served in the military, and just very proud of that background of where my family comes from. But I hope that each of you have a similar type of story to tell about your family or friends who have served in the military, because it is something to be very proud of. And then I have this quote over here to the right. True heroism is remarkably sober, very undramatic. It is not the urge to surpass all others at whatever cost, but the urge to serve others at whatever cost. Any veteran that you talk to, they don't talk about all the wonderful things they do. They talk about what they did for their brothers. They talk about what they did for their colleagues and the people around them. That's why they did what they did. That's why they were heroic in doing those little things and looking out for one another. So it is a great joy for me to be able to celebrate your person. So I got to talk to you about. Next slide, Eric. If you would, I would love for you to put the name of someone you'd like to recognize in the chat, and I'll be looking just to make sure to see what's being said. Who would you like to celebrate? I'm a teacher. I got wait time. Christy Veach. Julie, Melissa, Robert, Jimmy, Gerard, Salvador, Walter Helfrich, Barry Ike. Richard Shannon. My father, Laura Adams' father, a Marine. John Wargo, your dad. My son, Joseph in the Army, Brenda Sterner. Tag Morgan, your brother-in-law. Well, I appreciate you. Keep that list coming. We really appreciate you doing that. It's just really important that we take the time to remember those folks that said that. They always talk about that idea of a check, that when a veteran signs up to go to serve, they're writing a check that is up, that can be cashed for up to and including their life, that they sign on for that. And that's no small feat, regardless of what happens with their service. They made that commitment. So really, thank you for taking the time to share a little bit about your families and the people in your lives that have meant something to you or that have served our country. And thank you to all those veterans. We also have some people on our staff who are veterans, and we're going to get to hear from Master Sergeant William Jones here in a minute. But do we have any other veterans that are on the screen with us today? I see Lisa, I see your face over there. Who else? We've had Jeff Myers in the past. What are the folks on here? Well, if we don't get to call you out, just want to thank you again for your service to our country. Julie Peachin, I see on there. Thank you for calling her out, Aaron. I appreciate Jeff Myers we saw. Anyone else? Sometimes it's better if someone does it for you. So you don't do it yourself. Well, I appreciate what you guys have done to serve our country, and also that we're taking the time to remember those in our families who've done so. But now it is my pleasure to introduce you to William Jones, Master Sergeant William Jones from the U.S. Army. And our PR staff does a great job putting together a video where we get to talk about what Veterans Day is, and also learn a little about William and what he's done to serve over the years. And then I'll have a couple questions for him afterwards. But Eric, if you could play that for us, we'd really appreciate it.
We celebrate Veterans Day on the anniversary of the armistice that ended World War I. The armistice that began on the 11th hour of the 11th day of the 11th month. The timing of this holiday is quite deliberate in terms of historical fact. But somehow it always seems quite fitting to me that this day comes deep in autumn, when the colors are muted and the days seem to invite contemplation. Thank you. God bless you all, and God bless America.
My name is Master Sergeant William Jones, Pennsylvania Army National Guard. Been in the military, first joined in 1992, and I'm currently with the Pennsylvania Army National Guard out of Harrisburg with Division Asset. The reason why I joined the military, I had two cousins that were both in the military, older cousins. One was in the Air Force, the other one was in the Army. My Air Force cousin told me all the great things about the Air Force. I don't like to fly. Well, I didn't like to fly. So his brother called me and said, since I don't like to fly, you need to come join the Army. And that's what I did. My entire military experience has formed many, many, many great bonds and friendships. And one of the biggest things, it kind of gave me direction, and it also showed me discipline, taught me a lot of things young in life. I was 19 years old, kind of helped guide me to be not just the man I am, but the professional that I am. I've had variants of jobs throughout the military. When I first joined, I was in communications. After that, I went from the communications aspects, then went into the infantry. From the infantry, I became a cook. Became an MP, military police, and that's where I'm currently at in the MP status. And that kind of reflects on what I do on my civilian side as a police officer. What I want people to know is that it is a great tool, is a great aspect, and it's to do it for your country, right? As a young man, it also builds you as a person. So my military experience has helped me throughout my entire life, my family life, as well as my professional life as well. It has taught me a lot. I've learned a lot, and I continue to learn. I encourage, especially young folks, to either join the military. If you can't join the military, you can volunteer. There's many programs out there you can volunteer for. And also, yes, as being a veteran, not just a traditional veteran, being a combat veteran, we need support for those that have gone overseas. I am a 3-tour veteran in combat, and just reaching out, just talking to people, just a friendly phone call will help, especially with the transition back to the civilian life. It can be a little bit difficult. The resources are out there, and sometimes we don't take the initiative to do it, so we might need a little push from others, family members, friends, co-workers, to help reach out, so to welcome us back and give us the love that we deserve.
Well, thank you so much for doing that. That video was was awesome. And now as promised, I just have a couple questions for William if he's willing to share. First off, 4 different careers. You had a communications infantry, a cook, and then military police. That's pretty incredible.
Yes.
But the one thing I wanted to ask is that I hear so many people talking about, I got to get my 20 years in. I got to get my 20 years in. You're at 34 years, my friend. Tell me about what makes you keep on wanting to serve.
I believe, well, not I believe, it's actually been part of my life for so long. I don't know anything other than that, but also just me, um, like the bonds that I make and coming in as a young soldier, having mentors that kind of helped guide me in the right direction. And then once I started getting promoted, getting rank, and then having young soldiers underneath me, just starting to mentor them, not only in their military careers, but also in their personal lives, especially when I was a first sergeant. That was like one of the biggest things in what we do as first sergeants is take care of our soldiers. So until they tell me that I have to go, I'm going to stay in as long as I can.
Well, that's pretty incredible, William. Thank you for sharing it. And another thing that people might not know is that you've also retired from the state police after how many years in that line of work?
Yeah, I did. I believe it was 22 years of state service. Retired as a corporal out of Pennsylvania State Police, Troop F, which is our region where we're at right now.
And then decided to keep learning and doing your thing. And now as a school resource officer for us, we really appreciate your work.
Thanks.
Now, another thing I have a last question I'll ask is something people might not know is that our military has been a voluntary service for 51 years. There's no longer a draft. So defending our country is something people have to volunteer to do. William, what advice would you give a parent today who has a child who's thinking about wanting to serve?
I would say first, know your child. Get to know your child. That's first and foremost, because of course, I'm going to be biased. Being in the military in the Army for such a long time, but knowing that I might not be, I might be a computer genius, or I might be, do well with just speaking to people, a teacher, things like that. Um, the Army, of course, offers everything because we're the largest asset. But like I said in the beginning, my cousin told me about the Air Force, and I almost made it to the Air Force. But then they told me I need to jump, that I probably would jump out of planes. I was like, nah, that's not for me. My feet belong on the ground. So, um, but the Air Force itself has the biggest wallet, i.e., they have brand new toys all day, every day. It's more of a technical uh, field, the Air Force, but there's the Coast Guard, there's the Marine Corps, and just like your father being airborne, jumping out of planes, today the Marine Corps is, the hoorah, the, you know, Semper Fidelis. Always, once a Marine, always a Marine. Like they're relentless. Like they are go getters. If that's your child, then yes, I'd steer them towards the Marine Corps, although they are part of the Navy. But and that's one other thing, the Navy. If you're into water, seeing the world, the Navy fleets are all over the world. Like in the Army, you might only be stuck on, one continent, two continents. In the Air Force and in the Navy, you can be in the Indo-PACOM area, Indonesia, Japan, or you could be in Hawaii. So like just there's so many things out there. Just do your research, plus, and not just research the military assets, but research your child. Get to know your child and see what they're truly into, and then encourage them to step forward, because it is a service to your country. And I agree 100% for that. But also, it's a service for yourself. The military has set me up very well, set my children up very well with school benefits and everything else. So like it's an asset, and it is there to help, and it is there to learn and to grow young people.
Well, thank you, William. And from a dad who had two kids that go through it, I would tell you that my boys are not the same as their peers as a result of the things they went through in terms of time management, in terms of dealing with difficult things. Their grit, as we use that term, is just very different because of what the military taught them. So it's really something to consider. But one thing I didn't want to let go of without letting you go, before I let you go, William, is you've been through 3 combat tours.
Yes.
Okay, some people never get that. 3 combat tours. And in your video, you talk about the mental health challenges of that. Is there any advice you can give the people on the call here when they're around or with family members or friends or whatever that are coming back, about any suggestions you give for them to try and how to be there for them?
I would say a lot of times people say give them space. I would say don't give them space, right? Because typically when you give them space, then they tend to just be in themselves, and most people need that extra push to get it started, and that's all we need, is just to get started. But be there for them, support them in every way that you can, but also help guide them to the right area, even though a lot of us are bulls, a little stubborn. But we need that encouragement, that love, that little pat on the back. Not necessarily, but and sometimes we just need someone to talk to sit down and talk.
Well, we know that the mental health of our soldiers when they come back is really important to keep an eye on. So I appreciate that advice. And just one more, and from the group that's here, just a real big thank you to William for what you're doing here and stepping forward to do this. I know it can be a little uncomfortable at times, but your video was great, and I hope you know we're going to share it far and wide. So thank you for your service, William.
Thank you.
Now, the next part of our presentation here is we're going to talk about the organization that we are sponsoring this year. So we have Kennedy Seabridge with us, who's going to share a little bit about our Orangeville Manor and what they do. So Kennedy, what can you share with us?
The Orangeville Manor, we get a lot of veterans that are struggling with addiction or just homelessness in general. And the VA will call us. They will sponsor their stay here for a couple months. And then they really just need stability and love to help them get back on their feet and to be a functioning member of society.
Are the numbers that come through growing, staying the same, or what is your need for the services?
We're always full. We have a waiting list always.
Well, I guess that talks to what William was getting at before. It's not so easy to come back. One of the stories you hear about is someone goes overseas and they get injured and then they have issues with pain medications, and that leads one thing into another. Is that something you see, Kennedy?
Yes.
And have they, as far as your organization, what things do you need? Like if we're looking to gather resources for you over the rest of this week, what are things that would be valuable to you that people could donate?
We're always in need of coffee. The guys love their coffee all day long. We take clothing donations if they're new. A lot of guys come to us with only the clothes they're wearing. So we're always in need of clothing, shoes, things like that.
Any other things besides that? So I got things about shoes, clothing, and coffee. Any other stuff?
Personal hygiene items we go through quickly. We do local Dollar General trips, Walmart trips. We always accept gift cards for those for the guys and things like that.
Well, that's great feedback. Is there anything else in terms of, we just had a question come in of where can we send the items, and we're collecting them at the office, the main office here, but you also can have them brought into the Center for Schools and Communities and we'll get them delivered too. So, as Bernadette's saying, there's a complete list in the staff email if you need to take a look at that. So well, we really appreciate you doing what you do to try and support our veterans. There's lots of statistics out there about suicide rates and things like that for veterans after they come back and after they transition out. So your work is critically important to us and to our country. So thank you for what you do, and we'll be sure to help you as we go forward with some donations and some financial support from our organization. So thank you for being with us today. Is there anything else you'd like to share with us before I let you go?
I think that's it. We're so thankful for the community we have that's constantly asking for help, how they can help us and what we're in need of. We also have a Amazon wish list, and we send out a monthly email with the things we need at the time and to catch up on all the activities we do with the guys throughout the month.
Well, thank you for sharing that, and really thank you for what you do. And I guess I want to open the floor. Is there anybody on the call that would like to share anything about Veterans Day or things they'd like to share about someone that's in their lives? Really, I'm just opening the floor before we wrap up. Anybody want to have comment on any of this? Well, with that, all I want to do is thank our CSIU veterans that we have here on the call, and just encourage you really to reach out, to lend a hand where you can. If you have people in your life that have served and sometimes are going through difficult times, it's really important that we reach out and let them know how much they're loved and cared for. And like William is saying, maybe give them that prompt or poke to get them the help and the services that they need. So on this Veterans Day 2024, thank you very much for joining us. And please make a point of reaching out to a veteran and just thanking them for their service today. It'll mean the world to them. And you'll just keep on trying to help us live into those values that we hold so dear. So have a great rest of your day, and Happy Veterans Day.